Now, Metropolitan Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley has said he will take the wokeness out of policing.
Speaking to The Telegraph, he said there are very few causes policing should be attached to, and that officers should refrain from expressing or acting upon their political beliefs while on duty.
So is common sense returning to the police? Joining us now to discuss this is Police and Crime Commissioner Steve Turner and Toby Young, General Secretary of the Free Speech Union. So, Steve Turner, have the police turned into the woke brigade and the thought police? And was Mark Rowley right to say we need to get rid of all that and get back to impartiality in policing?
Good morning, Esther. That's not something I see in my force. I don't see a lot of wokeness in my force, but I do agree with Mark Rowley's sentiment. I do think there is too much pressure put on police officers in today's society to be all things to all people. And he's dead right in saying we must be absolutely apolitical in the police force, because we're there to serve everybody, to protect everybody, but also everybody needs to know that we're there to support them as well.
I mean, the thing is, Steve, it seems to me a strange one here. The rank-and-file police officers that I come across in my constituency, they always seem like very sensible, down-to-earth, salt-of-the-earth kind of people, to be perfectly honest, not in any way woke. And yet we see police officers not investigating burglaries, but turning up mob-handed when a pub displays a gollywog, or when a 16-year-old girl says that a police officer looks like a lesbian, and they come in mob-handed for that kind of thing. I mean, what's happening what's happening here? I mean, it seems to me, is this the leadership of the police that's causing these things? And in which case, isn't Mark Rowley the one who's to blame, rather than blaming it on the rank-and-file officers?
I absolutely agree. It's not the rank-and-file officers' fault. They will be dispatched to where they're told to be dispatched to. But what I do think is those sensationalised stories are few and far between, and what we don't see, because it doesn't make headline news, is the 99% of jobs that the police will attend where they're not misgendering somebody, or they're not going down the woke agenda or something along those lines. So, but I do think leadership is a big thing, and what people in my position need to do, and our chief constables, is set that standard and make sure that we're not just pandering to whoever's shouting loudest on a particular day or at a particular event. But we've also got to recognise that the police officer's job is to keep people safe, and sometimes inflaming an event isn't the right thing to do. So it is absolutely, you're dead right, Philip, it is absolutely about leadership, and PCCs and chief constables and senior officers need to lead from the front, and we need to say, let's do what we're paid to do. Let's do what the public want us to do, because the public want us to attend every burglary, attend every car crime.
Let's bring in Toby here. Let's bring in Toby. You know, could the police have a defence here, pushed and pulled from one direction to the other, trying to engage with the community, trying to be all things to all people, but fundamentally they have taken the eye off the ball. And as Suella Braverman says, you know, it's damaging the public trust in policing, that they're getting caught up in trivia and not the real crime.
Yeah, well, like Steve, I certainly wouldn't blame the rank-and-file officers, most of whom I'm sure are very sensible and don't want to be investigating people for supposedly saying something offensive on Twitter. It's the leadership that's at fault, and I'd identify the College of Policing as being probably the centre of the rot. It was the College of Policing which introduced the concept of non-crime hate incidents in 2014. And according to research carried out by the Free Speech Union, we estimate about 250,000 non-crime hate incidents have been recorded in England and Wales alone. That's an average of about 70 a day, Esther. Why are the police investigating tweets instead of policing our streets? There were a couple of examples just last week. A woman in West Yorkshire was arrested for taking a picture of a sticker, a gender-critical sticker, on Happy Valley Pride, on a poster advertising Happy Valley Pride. We had the Conservative councillor in Northamptonshire who was arrested for having reposted a video on Twitter of a Christian preacher being arrested, which the police later admitted was a case of wrongful arrest. So I think that's probably the first example of the police wrongfully arresting someone for pointing out that the police had previously wrongfully arrested someone. These aren't isolated incidents, I'm afraid. I wish they were, Steve. I'm afraid this is the pattern we're seeing across the country. It's not burglaries that they're investigating, but bad tweets.
Look, the police in this country police by consent. They rely on good relationships with the community to get intelligence, to get people to come forward to report crimes and things like that, and to give them information that will lead to the arrest of senior criminals, severe criminals. So if developing these good relationships with people in the community involves taking the knee, for example, is there really a big problem with that?
I think the problem with taking the knee, Phil, is that it alienates people who don't share that hard left neo-Marxist BLM agenda. If the police take sides on these very divisive, politically contentious issues, whether it's promoting pride, dancing with Extinction Rebellion protesters, going down on one knee in front of protesters, it doesn't build public confidence in the police, even within those communities. It undermines it. It suggests that the police have become the paramilitary wing of the Guardian. And if you're not a Guardian reader, that makes you feel you might be arrested at any moment.
Steve, what about Toby's point here about non-crime hate incidents? I mean, isn't it absolutely bizarre that the police should be investigating things that are called non-crimes? I thought the police were in post in order to investigate crimes and bring criminals to justice. So shouldn't people like police and crime commissioners be telling the police not to waste the time where it's a non-crime and just stick to crimes?
I would agree with that. I think it's not about non-crimes, it is about crimes. And it's up to chief constables to direct operational policing. The police and crime commissioners set the strategy. But I think the interesting thing from what Toby said there is too often groups, other politicians, political supporters use the police to try and target people who they see as their opponents. And I've been a victim of that myself here in Cleveland. And we've got a responsibility as politicians, and you two will know better than anybody, that you can't suddenly jump up and down about an issue because your political opponent, if you see an advantage about targeting your political opponent. So I've known politicians kneel for Black Lives Matter. I've seen police officers say they would only kneel before God, their king, and their wife. And I would personally take that view. But I do think too often we politicise these things and we try and bring the police in to make a point and attack a political opponent.
Well, then I think we've come full circle in the debate that we need to go back to taking all of
against other
these
politicians about woke agendas.
Yeah, I think we've come back full circle. We need to take all of these, the woke agenda out of policing and just get back to policing. No rainbow flags, no badges, no taking the knee, just locking up criminals. Thank you both very much indeed, Toby Young there and Steve Turner. Also looking at the figures, Phil, since 2010, the number of police officers have gone up by 2.6%, but crime's gone up by 25%. That's probably because they're not doing what they should be doing.